Grief Opened the Door to Heaven by Kim Droptiny, read by Kim Droptiny. Chapter 6, Peek into Facebook. The following day, we had to return to the hospital to collect Gabe's death certificate. As soon as we went through the doors, I wanted to run up to the room where Gabe had been, find him, and hug him. It tore my heart to pieces just knowing his body was somewhere in that hospital. But where? Brianna asked if we could see him, and they said it was not possible. We walked out with just a piece of paper that proclaimed he was dead. We returned to our hotel rooms to find that our new Texan friends had filled them with flowers, snacks, drinks, and even pumpkins, which considerably brightened a very bleak day. That afternoon and evening, we did nothing but lay on a bed together and watch movies. It was an attempt to cover our pain, but those mindless movies could not keep the tears from coursing down our cheeks or relieve the deep ache inside. We spent the next day at our friend's apartment, the ones who had brought the Texan team to Berlin. They were out all day and kindly invited us to use their home to spend the day in. The first thing I did was go into one of the bedrooms, lay back on the bed, and open Facebook. Among the slew of warm condolences, there was a message from an old friend in the United States. She wrote that she was desperate to speak to me, and thankfully the couple who owned that apartment also had free calls to the United States, and I called my friend. This friend had lost her son to suicide many years earlier, and I had walked with her in that pain. The first thing she told me was that we lost our sons on the exact same date. I had no idea. Then she explained, "Well, I seriously wanted you to call me because I needed to tell you something. When Gabe was in the hospital, I was sitting in my yard thinking about you and praying when suddenly Gabe just appeared. He was standing a ways off from me in the grass, and he had a huge smile on his face. He looked so happy. He kept pointing up to heaven, but he didn't say anything. I thought he was trying to communicate to me that he wanted to go to heaven. It was so real, Kim." Strangely, I was to hear similar stories from many other people. One of Gabe's friends, who was living in Taiwan, told me a story that happened to him before he even knew Gabe had an overdose. I'll let him tell it in his own words. Beginning quotation. "It was one of the most profound and meaningful experiences of my entire life. When Gabe was in a coma, he came to my dream. This was before I knew anything about the overdose. I had no prior knowledge of what had happened. Actually, I believe his spirit came to me to say goodbye. I know this sounds strange, but I promise on my very soul it is true. The dream was different because it felt more real than life itself. There's no way to describe this fully, but I know that Gabe's message is most important. He didn't say anything. I could just see him and feel his presence all around me, transported back to our best friend days. The feeling in the message was that he was at peace and happy. He just smiled at me, big Gabe smile, and I knew his message. As I woke, confused and curious, I opened my computer and checked the day's mail and Facebook, as I always do. Then I saw the news. To be honest, I was utterly shocked, confused, and heartbroken. To add to my shock, I then read a post from another friend saying that he had also dreamed about Gabe that very same night. This dream was and is the only comfort I have had during this ordeal. I suppose Gabe knew that I really needed his visit and that maybe I would tell you this story one day." End quotation. Amazing. I don't claim to understand, and I realize that it all sounds rather spooky. However, I do believe that my son was allowed to visit certain people to say goodbye. As you will read when I continue my own stories, he came to visit me quite often. After talking to my friend, I was desperate to take a peek into Gabe's Facebook mailbox. I wanted to see if any messages might indicate whether he had tried to take his own life. To my relief, just the opposite was true. His very last message was to a good friend who lived in England. He told that friend that he was going to use up the last of his heroin, get clean, and go to rehab. Tears gathered at my eyelids as I silently thanked the Lord for that gift. That last message was written on the day of his overdose. It didn't lessen the pain, and I did know that he was in so much misery. He hated drugs. He hated what they did to him and the hold they had over him. He hated the fact that I was hurt. It didn't lessen my pain, but I hoped it was true. I hoped that he had fully intended to fight once again for freedom. End of chapter 6. Thank you for listening. May God bless you.